Shalom, my name is Rabbi Bradley Shavit Artson. I'm the Abner and Rosalind Goldstein Dean's Chair at the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies, American Jewish University. I'm here with my colleague and good friend Rabbi David Wolpe of Sinai Temple, and we're thinking about issues involving the High Holy Days and our preparations for them. One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is the radical ways the community has changed. So we see that in shifting affiliation rates. Many people who participate in moments of Jewish life but don't feel the need to affiliate on the whole with an institution. The way that denominational identity doesn't compel in the same way that it used to. On the other hand, the way people click onto Facebook pages or tweet their Jewishness, and that seems to have a significant role in a lot of people's lives. All of which leads me to think that as a whole, we don't have a clue where we're going. And so I'd love to hear your thinking and have a conversation. Where do you see the changes taking place in the Jewish community? What do we need to be doing to prepare and anticipate for those changes?
Well, I actually think your summary was great, and we don't know where we're going. And there are several schools of thought, one of which is that you get out in front of, you use social media as much as possible, you understand that the world is changing into virtual communities and so on. And the other is, no, Judaism is, religion in general, is the resistance to that, the insistence that you have to be an in-person community, that it's not enough to see something on a screen, that, and I'm tempted to say both of those are true, and we don't know how it will shake out. Whenever it does shake out, in part because we're experiencing, I think, the first civilization that is self-consciously, constantly changing and sees no end to rapid change and even to the acceleration of change.
Right. So one of the ways that I've seen that change, and I'm sure you have too, I've had an opportunity to spend time on your fabulous Facebook page. Most of the people who click on my Facebook page are not Jewish, and many of them are not in the United States, and I know that's true for yours as well. And what that suggests to me is that we're living in an age in which finally people don't think of who they're going to learn from in terms of their label. They look to the quality of it. So there are people who are turning to Rabbi Wolpe as their teacher or Rabbi Artson as one of their teachers, even though they're not Jewish and don't intend to be Jewish, but they see us as holding a wisdom tradition and being able to present it in a way that they can use in their lives.
I think that's true, and it's great when it's someone coming to us. The problem is that Jews do the same thing.
Yes.
And it attenuates the Jewish tradition. It makes it less compelling and less thick and rich. It reminds me of what Soloveitchik said, that there are nomads and farmers. And nomads go from place to place and they take whatever they want, but they don't make anything grow. And a lot of Jews are spiritual dilettantes in that sense, and they find lots of wonderful teachers, because there are wonderful teachers out there.
Sure.
But they don't have a deep rooting in the Jewish tradition. And social media makes that even easier. I follow people on Twitter, on Facebook, who are not Jewish, and who I think are wonderful. In an earlier age, what would I be doing with that time? Probably studying Talmud. So it does have both effects.
Correct. So I want to push back a little bit, because I
wouldn't
think
be studying Talmud?
we'll discuss that later. The challenge is, it's easy, I think, for people of a certain age or older to point out the risks and the flaws and assume that that's true on the whole. Is it really true that young Jews are studying Talmud less than our generation did? I doubt it. I think that what's challenging in both directions is Jews are holding us more accountable, because they can hear really quality religious teaching from the Swami or the Imam or the secular, the psychologist. Right? So when they come to hear their rabbi, it had better be really good and really profound. They don't feel an obligation.
So, but you didn't spend all your youth studying Talmud like I did? I don't understand. No, okay, fair enough. I think, though, what you're saying is certainly true. That is, competition makes you better.
Yeah.
So you can't be a rabbi who just spouts platitudes if they can go and hear something better with the click of a button.
Right. And the risk that you're pointing out is a real risk, which is at some point, if you don't have a home base, you don't have a way to integrate it, not only as a whole, but also with who you are as a person. You have to stand somewhere, right? So,
who do you feel a part of? That's the question. And that's a harder and harder thing to say as it becomes possible to be self-sustaining in all sorts of ways. And then you do lose that community, and community is extraordinarily powerful and important.
And I'm going to push back again. Maybe what you do is you change what community means so that it's not default. I happen to live in this neighborhood and my label is their label, so I have to put up with those people because they're mine. Maybe now what it is to the extent that being Jewish is going to be significant in my life, I need to take responsibility for either finding or creating a community that actually embodies my Jewish values.
I think Jews have done that for a while, though. They go to the synagogue that embodies their values.
Sure.
But I also think that actually putting up with people who are different than you and who antagonize you is a really important part of community. And you have to do that. That friction, is part of what keeps you warm.
Yes.
So.
All right. Last question on this subject. You have been way out in front. Speaking of someone who would have been studying Talmud all the time, I often hear you quoting 16th century French poets that
I'm big on the 16th century.
I remember having studied in high school. I just don't remember actually reading them. And you're famous for the breadth of your literacy. Isn't this just the high-tech version of that? That you can quote Rabelais.
Right. I got that from my father, who was always quoting, and introduced a really broad sense of what the culture was about in our home, and the idea that Judaism at its best was in dialogue with the general culture. So yes, that is true, and I gotta say, being on Twitter and Facebook and all those things gives you a fantastic platform for being able to spread that. But I still think that the existence of this home base that we were talking about, this community, this place that's yours, is crucial to having a deep identity as a Jew.
So let me close with the following possibility. I agree with that. The Talmud in Masechet Yoma says that if you only have Torah, you don't even have Torah.
Right.
And I think that's true. So you do need to read widely so that when you study Torah, you actually can see what's in there, right? And see it responding to all kinds of deep things that you would miss otherwise if you were just on the surface. So that in the same way, you have to actually speak a language. You can't like languages and not speak one. But knowing a few of them allows you to see things in your own language that would otherwise be invisible.
Yes.
So maybe the place that we both come down is that we do have to take this bold experiment of launching into a future that's going to be very different in the structure than our past. But as Faulkner said, I can do this, not quite French, but as Faulkner said, everything has changed except the human heart. And so the human need for connection and community and belonging, that remains the same. And so the challenge for us and for all of us is how do we make the tools of this age serve the goal of deeper human life and stronger community. With that, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to more conversations together. Shana Tova.